as we look at the emerging technologies, there are really sort of four major trends that are happening. The one is cloud computing. So today I refer to today's environment as cloud computing. It's utility computing. You can buy CPU, memory and storage on a utility basis. But tomorrow it's utility IT, where you buy your whole IT environment as a package off the net, as though you're buying an app in the App Store. And that will have a profound influence on the way organizations operate, because all the non-core functions, the things that don't give you differentiation, where you don't need your own IT stacks, will effectively be outsourced into the cloud. The first advice I give to CIOs is this will happen whether you like it or not. So, it's no good being like Canute. You're not going to stop the tide. So the question is, how do you work with it? And I've been talking about cloud to CIOs for the last 10 years or so. And when I first started talking to them, I'd go into this room full of CIOs, and I'd be met with a wave of hostility, because they'd all see this as eating away at their empires, and they were dead right. So I thought about it, and after a while I'd go into the room and I'd start off by saying, you will succumb. It didn't get their love, but it got their attention, because ultimately they will have to succumb to this. There's no point pretending it's not going to happen. So the first thing you've got to do is start recognizing that this is a force of nature, and therefore how am I going to deal with it? The second thing is, this is not some long-term vision, but in the meantime it's progressively happening. It's not something that's going to take years to start. It's going to take years to finish. It's a journey, but the journey's already going, so you've got to get on the bus right now. The other thing about cloud, of course, is that the computing is moving from the peripheral to the center. It's kind of ironic, because it's actually doing both things at the same time. But it's essentially going to the center because people are swapping between devices all the time. So my preferred working mode is that laptop with everything on it. But actually, at the end of the day, I'm working off a phone and an iPad as well. And those don't yet have access to all that information that's stored on my laptop. And ultimately, I want to be able to get the same information, irrespective of what device I'm on, where I'm at, and how I'm connected. And so the cloud is really the inevitable central point for that aggregation of information. But the other thing about cloud computing is it's the economies of scale and scope. So if you take, for example, and I haven't talked about collaboration or unified communications yet, but if you take unified communications, the competitive advantage is not running your own PBX or whatever you're doing in your environment. The competitive advantage is being able to do it on a scale where it's easy for your users to use and across the globe. So there's pointless exercise trying to run those as peripheral activities, because you gain no competitive advantage, and in fact it just costs you money which you could better invest elsewhere. And once you start pulling it into the cloud, and once you start virtualizing the network, you're starting to get over some of those big hurdles that make it difficult today. And then, the enabler is this media-centric broadband, which is the ability of these new broadband systems to actually carry video. And it becomes possible to actually now work remotely. So my prime office is in my home, and I'm fully interconnected to Telstra. There's no difference between me being in that office or in central Melbourne from a point of view of working environment. There's a huge difference, and I save myself about an hour a day in commuting time, and that makes me a hell of a lot more productive. But in terms of actual work environment, from an IT perspective, there's no difference. So its time has come, because there's just all those pressures to make it work. I think, the biggest challenge that people face is security and privacy. So if you're going to manage this environment, you've got to persuade your customers two things. The first is that you're not going to mess with their data and use it inappropriately. And the second is you've got to persuade them that you're not going to lose it or let someone steal it. And, there are always slip-ups on that journey. No one's perfect in that regard. But when you start doing this, you have to trust the organization you're dealing with to really, A, be trustworthy in terms of their ethics and be trustworthy in terms of their security practices and things like that. So you've got to overcome those challenges. Now, we're in a fortunate position where security and privacy are core to our business. The second thing is that security is something that everyone faces the same threat vector. So security is as much about people as it is about technology, and we have 300 to 400 security professionals who manage our security environment because it's core to our business. We have to have those people. It's a bit like insurance calculations, you know. At one stage, actually, when I was running the research labs, I got interested as to whether we could actually get actuarial calculations to work out the risk of not doing the research, like an insurance calculation, but it turned out to be too hard because the statistics are too hard to collect. But I think this is a similar situation because my expectation is that the organizations that fail to adapt will disappear and die because they just simply won't be able to keep pace with a changing environment. They won't be able to attract the talent. They won't be able to efficiently change their environment to respond to evolving customer needs. So they're going to be stuck in the past in a world where everyone, and this is going to affect every single business. It's not limited to, you know, a certain segments like it is today, where, you know, the media industry has been massively affected, telecommunications has been massively affected. There are a limited set of industries, but there's some industries that blithely go on unaffected. But this new transformation isn't. No one's going to be exempt. And if you're not running your organization to get the best talent wherever they are, and that's on a global basis, and to be able to connect those people in and have them collaborate effectively, you're just going to be out of business.